much fun here this week at Church on the Hill because everybody's gone. Let me just tell you, all the grown-ups are gone. They're in Cuba or Hawaii. So it was super fun this morning when we were in the back and praying. Well, first we were planning and then we were praying and it was like, well, we could do this. Scott's not here. We could do that. So this may be our last week at Church on the Hill, but it's going to be a fun one. All right. I am so glad you're here. And if you were here last week, you got to hear the same great sermon I did about work. And what it is that as Christians, what our perspective of work should be, and how easy it is to get it twisted by the world. Because we've almost gotten to a place in the United States where we worship work. And so I want to talk about what should be our biblical perspective of work, and how should we carry that out through every aspect of our lives. But first of all, I want to tell you about a horrible, no good travel day. And I know we've all had them. I travel probably more than the average bear. And most of the time, I'm traveling on Southwest Airlines. And can I just tell you, I love Southwest Airlines. It is one of my favorite businesses to do business with, and I do it with them all the time. So I was getting ready for a trip in Cincinnati, and it had already been a hard week. My husband was out of town. He was in Florida taking care of his mom, who had been very, very ill, and we were going to meet in Cincinnati. So we were flying in together. The plan was to fly in together from opposite coasts, and we were going to work there for a couple of days. We were working at an event, so we were building a booth, and I was speaking a couple of times. And then I needed to go speak at a fundraiser in Virginia on Saturday. So I needed to leave Friday night. It was a whirlwind trip, but this is what we're used to. So I had to leave San Jose my flight was at 6:30 in the morning. So I went to bed early so I could have a good night's sleep. Well, that was my plan. That was not my Puggles plan, Jake. Jake got violently ill in the middle of the night, and we ended up spending 3 hours, and I won't tell you how many hundreds, thousands of dollars we spent at the ER to take care of Jake. And how many of you here are dog people? Like, you are dog people. Like, they're your fur babies. Like, here's the thing. I don't worry about my children because they're adults. Yeah, and if I had to think about what they were out in the world doing, I would be consumed. But I am worried about my fur babies. And so to get on the plane the next day broke my heart. But it's what you need to do when you're a grown-up, and these are actually animals, not your real children. And so we got him the medicine, we did all the things, and then I got about an hour's sleep and got to the airport. I took a Lift to the airport and met my husband in Cincinnati. We did this whirlwind event. And then the next part of my journey is when things really fell apart. And the next part of my journey was not on Southwest Airlines. And let me just make up the name of a really horrible, awful airline. Let's just call them American Airlines, okay? We're about to arrive, I think, in Philadelphia, which is our connecting flight, and we hear about 10 minutes before we're supposed to land, we've diverted the flight. We will now be landing in Newark, New Jersey. And so my question is, because I'm terrible at geography, is that closer to Virginia? No, it's further away. So I have to wait, and we get to Pennsylvania, and I'm trying to get on the phone to see if I can, and online to see if I can make a different connecting flight. And nothing is working, and I'm already a couple hours behind. I land in Philadelphia, and each worker tells me a different place to go stand in line to go change my flight. So after finally finding the right line, you know, the one that is out the door practically, I waited for 2 hours in line, and the best they could do was to get me on a flight the next day at 1 o'clock. The only problem was I was speaking at 9 in the morning. And so I said, hey, here's my situation. Is there anything that can be done? And the worker gave me the answer, there is nothing I can do. There were no hotels anywhere, nothing I could do. I needed to sleep in the airport. And so I went down to get my luggage, and they said it would be 3 hours. And I said, Okay, I just love my tooth. Anything, there's nothing we can do. It's going to be 3 hours. So it was 11:30 at night. I say, yes, I would like my luggage. I set an alarm for 2:30 in case I fall asleep. I go back to the luggage desk. Everybody is standing around it because they all had the same issue I did. You see, everybody was told to come back at 2:30, but the office closed at 2 o'clock. So there were about a dozen of us just standing there without luggage, including the young lady and her parents, who are off to a wedding that she was a bridesmaid in, and the dress was in her luggage. So what did we do? There was nothing we could do. One of my friends on Facebook, God bless Facebook, can I just tell you, the hive of Facebook can save any situation. And one of my friends there said, there's a train that will leave Philadelphia and get you to Virginia at 8:30 in the morning. You have to catch it at 4:25. So me and a bunch of other fellow survivors on this island nobody wanted to be on, and we all banded together. We were sharing snacks and phone chargers and hope. They were my last refuge in this world. And so we got to the Philadelphia train station, and because of my friends on Facebook, I'm now going to my event without luggage. And I figure, okay, you know what? We can buy something at Target if we have to. Get there at 8:30 in the morning, and if you're wondering what can you buy to wear at 8:30 in the morning on a Saturday morning in Target in Norfolk, Virginia, this is it. Not bad, right? Go Target. And I was able to make my event. I was able to speak twice. And can I just tell you, the most frustrating part about that was not the delays, was not the closed office was pretty frustrating, I'll be honest with you. But it didn't matter if I tweeted people, called them, saw them in person. The only answer I got that entire time is, there is nothing I can do. And so it ended up being a great story. We had a picture with everybody who took refuge on the train. I'm still friends with these guys. We found out that the woman who was supposed to wear the bridesmaid's dress, another bridesmaid, one that the bride didn't like, but was forced into her wedding, got sick. So the girl who was on our plane was able to wear this other girl's bridesmaid's dress. And some of these people were from Europe, and they were trying, is this how it always happens? I said, only on American Airlines. But here's what I knew, is that when anybody showed up and they said, there's nothing I can do, it was the most frustrating part of my trip. Oh, and by the way, American Airlines told me, go buy all your clothes and we'll reimburse you. So I bet you can guess how this turned out, right? So I sent in the receipts for about $200. Because you had to buy everything. Let's just think about that, everything, okay? And I get the response back, because you didn't report the lost luggage within 4 hours of your flight schedule landing, we won't reimburse you. I'm like, I was still trying to get another flight 4 hours later, because 2 of those were spent in the air over Newark, New Jersey. And so it was so frustrating. And I just got the feeling that nobody cared. It didn't matter what I did. I encountered a series of people who I guess started off being enthusiastic about their jobs. When they signed up to be customer service agents, when they signed up to be courtesy agents, when they signed up to be phone agents, they were probably excited about their job. They probably thought that they could help people. They may have even been in situations where they were treated poorly, and they said, I would never do that to somebody else. But here's the thing. When you work for somebody and they limit your autonomy, they limit your power, and they limit how much you can serve others, it's easy to get beat down, isn't it? I've been in that kind of job. And they just lost their love and enthusiasm for their job. And here's the thing. I have worked for good bosses, and I have worked for bad. And I would love to be able to say, every Christian boss I worked for just cared so deeply about service. And every non-Christian, well, that, it was just another story. But can I tell you, the worst boss I ever had professed to be a Christian on the weekends and came in and yelled and berated us Monday through Friday, called us idiots, did everything they could to demoralize us. And the best boss I ever worked for, I'll never forget, I was helping him plan where were we going to do our company retreat. And I came up with the perfect solution. Las Vegas at this time was going through their family-friendly phase. And they were saying, hey, come to Las Vegas. It's going to cost you less money. You can go to great restaurants. It's inexpensive. You're going to love it. And so I proposed this plan to Michael, who was my boss, who was lovely, but the cheapest guy I'd ever met in my entire life. And so I proposed it, and I knew he would love it. He said, no, Kathi, we can't do Las Vegas. I said, why not? This is going to save you thousands of dollars. He said, you know your coworker, Doug? He has a gambling addiction. And I can't be the one responsible for putting Doug in that situation, which is about the most Christ-like response I've ever heard from a man who's never darkened the doorstep of a church. And so what is it? What is it about how we enter into our work that shows Christ's likeness? And also, because I would say this, the people who I have encountered who love their job, who are inspired, who break through in jobs that maybe the rest of the world would look at and say, there's nothing special about that, but they are inspired and they work as if working unto God. They work with a different attitude. They go beyond, they do extra. And they love well, and they serve well. And so, how do we as workers, or maybe leaders, find that kind of joy in our work? What makes you a godly business or employee is not what you say or do. 1 John 3:18 says this, dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and with truth. I don't care if you have a cross on the door of your business or fish symbols on all of your vans. Show me how you treat your customers. Show me how you treat your fellow employees. Show me how you treat those you have been trusted to lead. Those are the people I want to do business with. Those are the ones who are acting out their faith on their job. Don't tell me you're a Christian. Show me you're a Christian. Behave in a Christ-like way by serving others. But somehow I think it's so easy for us to separate our Sunday selves from our Monday selves. And I see it happen all the time. And I know I have been guilty of it myself. So I want to talk about what's the world's view of work and what should be our Christ-like view of the work that we do every day. So the world's view of work. The first thing is the world's view says make and save money at all costs. That is our only goal. The bottom line is the bottom line. Number 2, follow the rules. If it's in the handbook, then the handbook is God. And number 3, job security comes first. And I want to just share with you the most egregious example I've ever seen of this. There's a company called Mylan, and the CEO, her name is Heather Bresch. And she's the chief executive officer. And Mylan bought the rights to sell and manufacture EpiPens. If you don't know what an EpiPen is, it is something that is administered to if you have an allergic reaction. If you are having, swelling up your face, because kids especially can have such severe reactions to allergens that they can die. They can stop breathing and they can just die. So EpiPen is a life-saving tool. So Mylan, the company that Heather Bresch is the CEO of, bought the rights to manufacture the EpiPen. And as soon as they did, they originally, the price of 2 EpiPens was $100. When Mylan bought the company, they raised the price to $600. And justifying the cost increase because of repackaging these things. And here's really what they were saying. Kids need this life-saving medicine, but we can charge whatever we want. So reports of kids having to carry expired EpiPens made the news. Reports of schools having 1 EpiPen for groups of kids because that's all parents could afford made the news. the manufacturer didn't care. So let's talk about those 3 points we talked about, what the world says work is about, making and saving money. This is a company that put profits over people, the sure sign that we have a worldly mindset when it comes to work. God never said that money was bad. In fact, money is an amazing tool, and it's used to do so much good in the world. But the love of money above anything else, when that is the only thing that you are testing your success on, that's when it's bad. Follow the rules. Technically, Heather Bresch could charge whatever she wanted for the drug, as long as she didn't let things like morality get mixed up with it. And job security. If you are the CEO of a company, the fastest way to job security is to make your shareholders happy. The fastest way to make your shareholders happy is to make sure that they're getting money. And so that was her job security. As long as I keep my shareholders happy by making the money, then I get to keep my job. But that is not what our view as Christ followers and Christ believers should be about work. Scott shared this verse with you last week, and I'm going to share it again. Do your best. Work from the heart for your real master, for God, confident that you will get paid in full when you come into your inheritance. Keep in mind always that the ultimate master you're serving is Christ. The sullen servant who does shoddy work will be held responsible. Being a follower of Jesus Christ does not cover up bad work. I love that so much. Here's what I have learned, especially over the last 10 years of my work. You cannot separate your work from your worship and your witness. They are all combined. I remember when I was a teenager, I went to Willow Glen Baptist Church right here in this area. And I remember one of our youth leaders said, what I want you to do, they gave us tracts. Anybody remember tracts? Okay, yes. So the 4 spiritual laws and the way to the cross. Now, I don't want to mock these too heavily because I know people who came to know Christ through tracts. But also, what they wanted us to do was to take those tracts and spread them out at our work, just drop them around. And somebody might come to know Christ that way. But here's the only way that I have seen it happen in my life and the lives of people I know and love, is that when I behave in a way that serves others, that honors others, that promotes the mission, when I go beyond, when I do excellence in my work, it's when people want to get to know me better. And that is when I have the opportunity to say, this is why I'm called to serve. This is why I care. And let me just tell you, I get it wrong more than I get it right. But the times I get it right, it's because I have not been worried about money or advancement or job security. It's because God has called me to a person on my job to care for them and to take care of them. Okay, not every company that succeeds is a Christian company, but you don't have to be a Christian company to use biblical principles to know that they work. So let's talk about some of the earmarks of what God wants for our work. And the first thing, it's mission over Monday. Monday. Oh, gosh. And I don't even have to go to work tomorrow. I don't know what that slip was about. Okay, so in our business that my husband and I run, let's be clear. We charge for materials. We charge for books. We charge for programs. We charge for me to come speak. We read books about how to be profitable. We meet once a week with our financial person to make sure we stay on top of our finances. But we don't love the money. What we have fallen in love with is our mission. In our ministry, which is about helping people who are overwhelmed by clutter, and people are like, oh, you mean your emotional clutter? I'm like, no, I mean the stuff in your garage. Like, I believe that that is keeping you back in many ways, because every time you go to your garage and you go, and you're completely overwhelmed, I believe that's stealing a little bit of your soul. And I don't want you to live like that. We have a motto. We have a mission in what we do. It says, we help world changers get free from clutter so they're free to change the world. Because I know that many people in here are charged to change the world, but that's really hard to do when you can't find your car keys. And so I want you to be able to find your car keys on a regular basis. And so every one of our 33 partners, contractors, and interns knows what our mission is. And we talk about it. And we talk about how we can do it better. And we talk about what's holding us back and how we can empower more people. But we want our ministry to grow. We want our business to grow. But we also know this. The other way we empower our partners, employees, and interns, that if they see a need, that we meet that need, even if finances can't be involved. And when I go speak at an event that's a church, we often have volunteers who help run the book table. And those volunteers are from the church, and they know the people in the church better than we do. And we empower all of those volunteers to say, if you need to give materials away because you know of a need, you are empowered to do that. Can I tell you, this is going to sound crazy. Our sales go up because those volunteers feel so passionate, and they know that we are so passionate about what we're doing. They want to make sure those materials get into everybody's hands. We love being able to do that. And it doesn't make financial sense, but it always makes financial sense because when we worry about the mission, the money takes care of itself so often. It's amazing how many times that has been true. Okay, so the next point in what the Bible's view of work is, relationship over rules. I love Southwest Airlines. I love them so much. And I love this story about their president, Herb. One woman who frequently flew on Southwest was constantly disappointed with every aspect of the company's operation. In fact, she became known as the pen pal because after every flight, she wrote in with a complaint. She didn't like the fact that the company didn't assign seats. She didn't like the absence of a first-class section. She didn't like not having a meal in the flight. She didn't like Southwest's boarding process. She didn't like the flight attendant's sporty uniform and the casual atmosphere. Her last letter, reciting a litany of complaints, momentarily stumped Southwest customer relations people. They bumped it up to Herb, the CEO of Southwest at the time, desk with the note, this one's yours. In 60 seconds, Kelleher, the CEO, wrote back and said, "Dear Mrs. Crabapple, we will miss you. Love, Herb." Mr. Kelleher is famous for saying that he hires great employees. It's his job to trust them. He loved his customers, but he loved and trusted his employees. When somebody would say to him, the customer is always right, he goes, I rarely find that true. He trusted his employees. His employees felt empowered to make decisions. And then finally, a biblical view of work is service over job security. For years, I worked at Nordstrom, and I was the most popular worker there because I ran the truffle bar. So the truffle bar is a very powerful position if you've never worked at Nordstrom because we have something that's called MOSs, marked out of stock. So if there's a truffle that had a little chocolate discoloring or the icing on it wasn't just perfect, we had to mark it out of stock. So I had a lot of salespeople with sweet tooths following me around asking me if there were any MOSs at the time. But what I remember most from my job at Nordstrom, and you know they are famous for their customer service, is they always ask, how would you want to be treated as a customer here? So I got to do things. Oh, and by the way, if anybody tried to take advantage, we just bumped it up to our manager, and they took care of it. But we were empowered to do what we needed to do to make the customer happy. So I was able to do things like I opened up a box with a toy, because I was working in the gift section where the truffle bar was at the time, because there was a kid who had an ear infection and wasn't feeling well. So I just opened up the toy and gave it to him, and he was able to take it home. I was able to gift wrap and hand deliver a salad bowl that had been delayed in shipping to our store to get it in time for somebody's great aunt's birthday party. And I was able to hand deliver a pair of bridal shoes about 7 minutes before a bride walked down the aisle because she had ordered shoes and they came in the wrong size. But here's the best part of that story. Those original shoes weren't from Nordstrom, they were from our competitor. But my manager said, how would you want to be treated on your wedding day? So I was able to deliver those. And those stories are legendary because they're so rare. And so I love those stories. We were empowered in a million different ways, trainings and posters and staff days. And so we were told over and over and over again, as employees, we trust you. You can do this. Can't we all remember a time when either a boss, a coworker, or if we were a customer, an employee went out of their way to serve us? Not because it was part of the job, but because it was the right human thing to do. And so I want to talk about how do we get better at our jobs? How do we get better at serving? How do we get better at serving both our employer and our God at the same time? So I want to talk about the parable of the talents, Matthew 25, 14 through 30. Let me read this to you. Again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called a servant and entrusted his wealth to him. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2, and another 1 bag, each according to his ability. I find that really interesting, that it says that each according to his ability. So their master knew them, they were intimate with their work, and they knew what the ability of each of those servants was. The man who had received 5 bags of gold went at once to put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the man who had received 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought out the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I've gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. The man with 2 bags of gold also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I have gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. And I love this illustration where the master says, you have done such a good job. You deserve some of the things that I enjoy. I love that. Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came. Master, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. And how often do we do that? The least possible out of fear. The least possible out of fear. His master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvested when I had not sown and gathered where I had not scattered seeds. Well, then you should have put my money on deposit with the banker so that when I returned, I would have received back with interest. So take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. For whoever will be given will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have been will have been taken from them. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness where they will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So I want to compare these 3 servants and what their qualities were. And that will help us understand how we can grow into the kind of worker that God wants us to be. So let's talk about the traits of the 1 talent worker. He only sees the financial bottom line for their employees and themselves. They only care if it's in the handbook. He just went according to the rules. This is why he buried the money, because he wasn't thinking outside the box. He was saying, okay, I'm just going to keep it safe so I don't get into trouble. And then only makes decisions based on 1 factor. What is the minimum I can do to keep this job? Many of the people I ran into in American Airlines trip were 1 talent workers, answering questions, doing the minimum they could to move on to the next customer. I believe that often companies hire 2 talent workers. I'm going to talk about that second. But they get beat down and beat down and beat down until they become the 1 talent worker, because it's just the safest way to do it. Okay, let's talk about the traits of a 2 talent worker. The two-talent worker is working towards understanding their God-given mission and incorporating it into their daily work. So they're trying to understand what their talents are, what they are good at, and how they can best serve. And they're starting to get this. And if you are somebody who is starting a new job or just out of college and you're looking for what you're doing, you are probably a two-talent worker and that is a good thing. That means that you are getting entrusted with a little right now. And as you grow in wisdom and faithfulness and service, you'll be entrusted with more and more. The two-talent worker is building relationships that honor God in the workplace and is growing in understanding that serving others sets them apart. Now I want to talk about the five-talent worker. This is what we should all be aspiring to. And the first trait of the five-talent worker, they live their personal God-given mission, and that translates into their daily work. The five-talent servant was excited to serve and please his master, because pleasing his master, literally in this parable, was pleasing God. This is someone who knows themselves and they know the God that they serve. On our team, we ask each person to spend a little time every day discovering their superpowers. And superpower isn't just what you're naturally good at. For us, superpower is what you are good at and can sustain the boredom of that other people can't. So I can spend a lot of time preparing speeches and writing books where other people, that's totally draining for them. We have one person on our team, it brings her nothing but pure, unadulterated joy when she can find the missing Wells Fargo transaction. It's like her birthday when that happens. And I'm like, that is your superpower. Who knew that was a superpower? But that is a superpower. Where can you sustain where others give up? 2, they prioritize their relationship with their leaders, coworkers, and clients over just getting the job done. They understand that work is deeper than just a checkbox. And number 3, they understand that serving those around them is ultimately serving God. They know what God has gifted them with, and they use those talents to serve others, serve their employers, and ultimately serve their God. So I want to share with you really quickly 2 examples of 5-talent workers on that really bad travel day. So this is our Puggle Jake, the one that I was leaving at home that was breaking my heart in every way. And if you have never felt guilty before, just have a Puggle stare you in the eye. It will bore into your soul. And it broke my heart to leave him that next day. But I had a 5-talent worker that I didn't even know of on the job. It was Austin Semerock. And if you're new to our church, this is our pastor's son. And I get to talk about him because he's in Hawaii right now and he can't stop me. But can I tell you, he took so much care in making sure that he administered the right medicine. He asked the right question. He even sent us pictures of Jake while my heart was breaking. And I felt such peace until I read on Facebook that Austin had been working all day and then gone straight to his prom. And I was like, you little turkey. You left my dog alone. I was in a panic until my husband reassured me. No, his dad, our pastor, Scott Semrock, went and scooped our dog's poop, fed him, gave him medicine, and sat with Jake so that Austin could go to prom. I talk about some 5-talented guys. I mean, it warms my heart. And then the other group that I ran into, well, I got through with my speaking engagement in Virginia. I got up at 4:30 in the morning to get to the Virginia airport, to get on my Thank You Jesus United Airlines flight, to get back to San Jose. I go and I check in, and they say, your flight has been canceled. And I'm like, of course it has. And I just started busting up. And they said, well, that's not normally the reaction we get. And so I told them the whole story. I told them about going and speaking at this church and all of the obstacles and everything. And the leader, let me see if I can point to her, the one on this end, she said, well, that's exactly why you're having all these problems. You obviously are filled with God's power, and there are forces in the world that want you to lose your witness, but you don't do it. You don't do it. And then they spent the next 20 minutes, these 4 amazing, talented people spent the next 20 minutes working with other airlines to get me home. And I got home 12 hours later than I was originally booked, but all I wanted to do was get home and see my puggle. And they got me home. And I do not believe it's a coincidence that the 2 sets of 5 talent people that I encountered that weekend were believers. Now, I have received excellent customer service from people who don't know or love Jesus. But can I just tell you, when you are integrated, when you have integrity in your life and your work, and you love God, it can't help but pour out when you're on your 40 hours a week. It's just amazing how that happens. Now, I want to talk really, really quickly about the traits of a good master, because I think this is so important what we're doing. Number 1, they understand their mission and communicate it regularly. It's like what happened at Nordstrom over and over and over again. And then number 2, they understand that relationships, not rules, build organizations. They get to know their employees and their unique talents, and they know which ones are the leaders and the problem solvers and the customer service people. And they assign them according to their ability, and they build them up. That's the kind of leader I want to be. And I don't know who you're leading. I believe that we are all leading somebody, whether it's in your home or in your work. But that is our job, to see the God-given talent in each of the people that we have been charged to lead and raise it up in them. Raise it up. Number 3, understand that the only job security is through serving those around us. Now, I never gave an example of a 2-talent worker. Let me do that. You see, I got denied for the reimbursement for all my clothes, and I called them to politely explain why they were totally wrong. I said, hey guys, here's the situation. I couldn't have reported that the suitcase had gone missing. And let me tell you my frustration with everything that was going on. And I tried to be as polite, but also truthful and forceful as I possibly could be. And what did the women on the other line say? I'm sorry, I can't help you. And so I continued to explain why they were wrong and why I was so frustrated. She said, will you give me just a minute? And so she went away, and I listened to the whole music, and she came back, and she said, I am so sorry that happened to you. That is not how we want to be remembered here at American Airlines. I've talked with my supervisor, and we've approved the refund, and about 2 weeks later, I got this check in the mail. And I just thought, you know what? This is somebody who fought the system in her own little way and said, I am going to serve, even though the handbook says I don't need to, even though my boss says I don't have to. It was a human reaching out to another human saying, how can I serve? And so we all have the opportunity, no matter what our job, no matter where we work, even if it's at American Airlines, we can stand up and serve. We can serve with the heart of Christ. I want to refer us back to the verse that Scott shared with us. And I want you to look at this in the NIV version. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as if working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as your reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. Maybe you're not in the dream job. Maybe you're in a job where you're being kicked down all the time. And I'm so sorry. That is so hard. It's such a frustrating place to be. But I also know this, that if we can look beyond who is sitting right in front of us and see Christ on the other side, we can treat that person differently. We can serve that person well, because our goal should be to derive joy in our work, whatever that little bit of joy is, to help the person who wasn't going to be helped, to love on the person who's having a bad day, and then give God the pleasure in our work. When we step outside of ourselves, go beyond and serve well. Can I pray for us right now? God, thank you for entrusting us with good work. Thank you for loving us so much that we get to be a part of sharing you with a hurting world. God, let us always look beyond the frustration and the anger of the people that we have around us and see what the real need is. And the real need is to know you. God, we are so grateful that we get to be a part of what you are doing. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.